Hi folks, welcome to Libertatius. I'm Adam.
And I'm Lisa.
We're here to explore the ideas behind libertarianism and atheism.
As ex-Mormon atheists, we want to show people that there's meaning and happiness in the world outside of religion, and even away from God.
And as minarchist libertarians, we want to show people how the government's role should be limited to protecting our natural rights. And hello after a long hiatus. How are you?
Good. It's been about a month and a half.
Yeah, it's been a long while. A lot has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a couple of really big things, I guess, have happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, how have you been over the past month and a half?
Oh, man, I've been avoiding that question. It's been a rough old time.
The time has come.
Yeah, it's been a rough old time, and I don't want to be negative or anything.
It's fine. It's fine.
I think that I really think the shutdown has been a huge mistake. I know I was a little bit more sympathetic to the cause earlier on when this was all beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But in hindsight, I look back, I look at the way things are now. I think we misplayed. And I think there are so many other little factors that go beyond a death count. And that is not to say that a death count isn't important. But anyway, I'm starting to get too far into like the big scope stuff. The main thing is that being a teacher is hard right now.
Yeah.
I believe that teens are depressed.
Absolutely, yes.
And, and that's something I want to talk about a little bit more later. But
Sure.
It is making this job quite difficult.
Oh, that's true. That's right. Because it's hard on you as a teacher anyway, right?
Yes.
But then dealing with kids who are dealing with depression, like, you're not qualified to deal with that.
Exactly. I am not at all qualified to handle these problems. I feel like I am teaching a room full of zombies every day.
Ugh.
And every now and then there are these little glimmers of light. There's these little sparks of hope.
Mm-hmm.
But they are few and far between, let me tell you. You know, I got dinged last year because my failure rate wasn't high enough.
Wait, what?
I was below the school average in terms of failure rate. Like, I was failing 2% or less of my classes.
Okay.
And to me, that's a feature, right?
Yeah, why is that a bad thing?
Well, my boss was concerned that it was because I wasn't challenging the kids enough.
Oh, like you're going too easy on them?
Like I'm going too easy on them. Now, mind you, half of what I teach are electives. But anyway,
well,
that
right.
aside.
Gosh. Do you think she's
like,
right? Do you think that you were going too easy on them?
Maybe. I feel like other teachers are needlessly hard. So, I mean, I think she's right and wrong in different ways.
Okay.
But, I have tons of respect for her. I mean, she's great.
Mm-hmm.
But she's definitely not like the source of problems.
Mm-hmm.
The CDC is. And it's been really okay. So I used to be like 2% or less.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm at about 50%.
Oh.
Yeah. It's night and day.
Wow.
It's a night and day difference.
Yeah.
And so it's been very difficult for them. It's been very difficult for us. It's very difficult on the parents who don't know what to do and need to work. And they would prefer to have someone else think about these things for them while they think about their job.
Right.
And it is very difficult to tell them, I can't do my job unless you do your job at home.
Mm-hmm.
But for them to do their job at home, they can't do their job at their job.
Yeah.
At least not as well. So it is this cycle where we all could have simply allowed this Passover, you might say, for lack of a better term, to wash over us and to emerge from it.
Yeah, that was what, was it Sweden or Switzerland?
Yeah, Sweden did it. And of course, everybody pointed at their high death toll.
Uh-huh.
And they were like, see, it doesn't work. It's like, well, no, that's expected.
Yeah, but then other people, especially in the libertarian circles, were like, just wait and see. wait and see. This is probably the right way to go. And I mean, I think their numbers are doing better now. But yeah, I mean, but that's asking a lot. And the last thing our government wants to have happen is for the people to look at them and be like, what did you guys do? Like, you did nothing. Because I think as a culture, we expect our government to take care of us and to tell us what to do. I'm speaking as like just culture-wide. Libertarians obviously are not in that mindset. Are not that
way, right? But you're absolutely right. There is this waiting for Superman that exists in our rather dependent American culture. We want to spend our time consuming Starbucks in Disney films and not thinking about the things that are needed for existence. We believe that it is a government's role not to protect our natural rights, but to give us our rights. And I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah, and to protect us from ourselves.
And it's important to see government not as the source of rights, but as the guardian of it.
Yeah. And are you guys, so for your school, you were doing, the last time we talked, you were doing some stuff online, and then you were going to the school physically, was it twice a week?
Yeah. So I'm going every day, but we basically have the kids on an A-B schedule. So half my class is in the room, the other half is online on a call. So I basically have a Google Meet open while I'm teaching a class.
That's a lot to keep track of.
Well, you see, the solution to all educational problems is to give the teachers more to do.
Right.
You don't pay them more, but you make them do more.
Yeah, and they don't realize that teachers have limits.
No, they don't care. Because you can always guilt a teacher. This is the big weakness of all teachers. You just say, well, are you here for the paycheck? And they're like, no, I'm here because I love kids, sucker. And then that's how they always get you, basically, to just grin and bear it every single time. They just manipulate you emotionally.
Because it's like, you must not care about the kids.
You don't care about the kids.
Right. Yeah. It's like, no, that's not it.
Though, I will say, I'm getting kind of done with the kids.
Oh.
And, listen, again, it's not really their fault.
No.
But they're not helping.
Right. Yeah. Well, they don't know how to handle their own depression. They don't know. I mean, they're fairly powerless.
Yeah, they are. And they are being affected more than any other group by the pandemic in terms of emotional stability, at least according to one article I read.
No, it's true. I've seen it. I'm part of a Discord channel, and there are a lot of people who are in high school and college. And I've seen so many of them post about how stressful this time is. They're dealing with depression because a lot of them are stuck at home and they don't necessarily get along with their family. Like if they're an atheist, I've seen this a few times. They're an atheist or an agnostic, or they just don't want to be part of their family's religion, but they're getting pressure from their family, either to like, some of them are Jehovah's Witnesses. And so there's pressure for them to get baptized, which I think happens when they're 17 or 18. And so they're like, I don't want to be around my family, but I'm stuck here. I can't go to school and be with friends who think differently. And so they don't have that outlet. It's really hard.
I think that that's absolutely true. Not to mention abject abuse is up. That's something we all know. We can all see the trend on. We're not dealing with Father of the Year around here or Mother of the Year. A lot of the kids that I deal with come from extremely abusive homes.
Even before the pandemic.
Even before the pandemic. Now they're stuck at home with some of them.
Yeah.
And that is a real disaster. And you can manipulate me emotionally with that one. Because I would rather be at the school taking care of students and even just babysitting them. Like, okay, we could just, hey, go sit in the corner on this computer and do whatever you want. as long as no one's touching you or hitting you or, calling you names, like, I would at least perform that service.
Yeah. Getting them out of that environment for a little bit.
Getting them out of that environment. And then we wonder why their term paper wasn't turned in, right?
Yeah.
And it's so far beyond anything that they're thinking about. And it's hard because I'm still trying to run class. Mm-hmm. Still trying, and there are some kids that aren't experiencing this, that want a good education, that want to learn and grow and be better and be prepared for college and beyond. Mm-hmm. And I can't cater to them at that level.
No, your attention is too split. You're trying to deal with two very different scenarios. Very different scenarios.
So I've got genius future lawyer over here. And then I've got kid that just needs to be anywhere but home in the other corner. Mm-hmm. And then how do you get them both to grow in that environment? It's not clear. Mm-mm. It's not clear.
No.
So it's been, yeah.
Do you find it's harder for the kids who are doing it online, or is it the same?
Some thrive online, but far and away they don't. Like in terms of like the aggregate. The majority of them cannot function without being in an educational environment.
Okay.
There are a few exceptions where they go, this is fine, this is great. I can do like several classes in a single quarter because I'm self-motivated and I understand that like finishing high school is important. Mm-hmm. More of them, as soon as you let them go, they just go back to sleep. They play video games. They watch Netflix, YouTube, whatever. And then they don't do anything all quarter long. Mm. And it's, whatever. When you're suffering from actual depression, no amount of me encouraging you is going to change that.
No. And it's not for lack of trying on your part. It's that depression is serious. There are reasons why it happens. And if the causes are still there, then it's not going to go away. Something else has to change. And you don't have the power to do that. And neither do the kids.
Well, speaking of change, there has been something very good that's happened to me.
Yeah, what's that?
My wife has essentially renounced Mormonism.
That's right. That started right around the time that we took a break from this episode. Or this podcast.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So what happened?
So her mother saw basically a video debunking Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon and everything else. And she was quite convinced by it. And so she decided that Joseph Smith was a false prophet. Mm-hmm. And as soon as she said that to my wife was shaken. And at that point, she was more receptive to the idea that maybe this isn't true.
Okay.
So, in a way, it's almost frustrating, right? After years of me saying, hey, it's probably not true, because you have no logical basis to believe it in the first place. And feelings are not evidence.
Right.
She just hand waves it. And then as soon as mommy says, maybe it's not true, that's it. But, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, and plus you'd mentioned before that she didn't really care so much if it was true or not. Like for her, church is not an intellectual thing. It's about the feelings and the social aspect. Right.
So this is one place where we still have work to do because obviously that foundation needs to be stronger, but also she's not sure if she wants to entirely stop going.
Oh.
She doesn't necessarily want to take the kids anymore.
Okay.
But
good.
She doesn't want to lose her friendships. She wants to be in a community. Mm-hmm. All of the other things that you get.
Yeah.
She has stopped wearing her magic underwear. And thank God for that, because honestly, it is the most unflattering, unsexy stuff ever. It's just awful. So that's been nice.
I agree. Like, I think it's designed to, it's designed to cover you, whatever, but I think it's designed to kill the sex drive.
Right. It's just like anti-libido cloth, right?
Yeah,
it's
it is.
It's just awful. At least for like men, it's basically just an undershirt and underwear. Like,
yeah, it looks normal.
It just looks like Hanes, but like there's marks on it. And
it's a little longer. But yeah. But yeah, for the girls, no.
It's just gross, honestly. She was told to do it, so she did it. And now she's not sure that the powers that be are legitimate. Like, there is this streak in her that is anti-authoritative. You know, she doesn't like to be commanded in things.
Uh-huh.
But, as you know well, childhood indoctrination is quite pervasive, and it can be difficult to overcome that. So,
yep.
You know, if the church said a thing, then she was likely to do the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just being a faithful Mormon. It's just what you do.
But if I said, "Dear, as your husband, I request," you know, or if I would say anything akin to "I demand," it was just like, well, that's not happening now. Even if I want that, like, I'm not going to abide.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It has to be a very clear, kind, open request.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Request and not demand.
Right. Then I usually get what I want. But if I demand, if I try to be like a 1950s husband, right, it doesn't go well.
Nope. I don't see her as a 1950s kind of wife anyway.
No, not really. Although she cooks like one.
Nice.
And that's what really matters. So that's been good. Her whole family's basically out, except for like one brother, but I think it's only a matter of time for him.
Okay. Is he the one who's married to a Mormon?
Yeah, and she's ambivalent about it. She's just kind of like, whatever.
Okay.
And, you know, if there is one positive from the pandemic, I would say that faith is not doing so hot these days. You know, people aren't going to church. And if you're not going to church, then you're not being indoctrinated regularly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the LDS Church still encourages you to self-indoctrinate. So, you know, keep reading your scriptures every day. Keep praying every day.
Sure.
Have church, at least sacrament meeting, in your home instead. So they're still encouraging that, but it's not... Yeah, it's different when you are actually going to the building every week.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? So when I was leaving the church, I was kind of in that position that your wife is in, where I didn't believe it was true, but I wondered if I could still go. I mean, I would be allowed to, of course, but if I personally would feel comfortable going, not believing that these things were true, just for the social stuff. And without even trying, I just thought about it and I was like, no, I can't do that. But, you know, maybe your wife will come around with that too. You know, she'll probably feel a difference going to church and believing this stuff versus going to church for the social stuff, but not really believing it's true. Like, I think it will probably be a different experience for her. So I don't know what'll come of it, but I think it'll be different. And she may end up being like, no, it's not worth it. Or it feels too weird to go to church and not believe it.
Well, I think so. You know, I think we all go through the fake it phase, you know, I don't know if you did, but
no.
I know for me, I, you know, tried to just kind of go, well, I'm going to go, but I don't really believe it anymore. But I want to be a good dad. I want to be a good husband. I don't want to be socially ostracized.
Yeah.
And at least for me, it wasn't long until I was just like, I can't take this anymore. This is just awful. So maybe she'll get there. But having said that, we have different motivations, right? My motivation was the church is true. Therefore, I will do what I'm told and I will, you know, sacrifice for it and I will give for it and I will do what God wants me to do. Because on at least some level, I intellectually believed it was true. And then as soon as that was broken, it was only a matter of time. But for her, it's all emotional, so it's hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and her mom is a big it's a big part of her foundation. It's just the relationship that the two of them have. So, that it kind of makes sense that her mom's decision played a big part in her own.
Yeah.
But, at least you're there to support her. You've been through what she's going through kind of in a different way, but you've already been there. And so,
yeah, I have.
Yeah, you can be there to support her and help her.
So that's going well.
Good, I'm glad.
So anyway, we've just spent the last 20 minutes talking about either coronavirus or my life. Let's talk about your life.
Well, back in the second week of October, we went out to New Hampshire.
Wonderful.
Yes, it was gorgeous.
Oh, I bet. I bet it was perfect.
Yeah, I'll have to send you a picture on Discord. But yeah, it just the trees, some of them were still green, but there were definitely some oranges, yellows, reds. It was just picture perfect.
That's perfect. I love the fall season. I love those colors.
Mm-hmm. But it was beautiful out there. The weather was perfect. We went out to the beach because, they've got 14 or 16 miles worth of coastline. It's cute. But yeah, so we went to the beach. We visited a couple of the major cities in the state. We also met up with some libertarians. So there was this market day, this community market, and it's hosted by the Free State Project. And so, yeah, I got to visit and got to meet a few libertarians. That was fun. It was fun to chat with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty. Tons of trees everywhere. Everywhere. Here in Texas, we've got trees, but we've got a lot of just wide open spaces. But out in New Hampshire, no, it's trees everywhere. It's like anywhere you go, you're driving through a forest.
That's wonderful. That sounds absolutely lovely. So are you convinced? Are you going to go?
We haven't made any plans yet because, the major factor is, would my husband be able to get a job out there? And
I'm sure he could.
Oh, yeah. He's got the skills to do it, but it's are there jobs to have out there? A lot of them are in Boston, and we flew into Boston, and then we drove to New Hampshire from there. And unfortunately, it was Friday night rush hour traffic, and it was bumper to bumper. It was so slow. And the problem is, that's only half the amount of traffic that's usually there because a lot of people are working from home. And traveling to and from Boston every day, that would be a pain in the butt.
Oh, yeah.
That would be rough.
Horrible.
Yeah. So,
is there public transportation that is viable out there? It's the East Coast. I imagine it would be a little better.
Yeah. I'm not sure if they have any trains like BART. I don't know if they have anything like that out there. They do have some buses. Okay. So, that takes longer. But
yeah, buses aren't so good. But if there's a good train system, then that's great. In the Bay Area, the BART was a no-brainer.
Right. Yeah.
And I hear the subway in New York's pretty good, although I've never used it.
I haven't either. Yeah. But yeah, if there's something like that, that could work out better. So we haven't made any plans yet, but we haven't crossed it off our list either. So
it also seems needless for him to have to go anywhere. Everything he does is going to be on a computer, right?
It can be, yeah. And with Amazon, they've actually changed it so that if you relocate, you have to get permission from, I don't know how high of a level, but for my husband, if he were to transfer to or just move to a different location, even if he's still working online, he'd have to get permission from the CFO. And it's why would I want to go bother him? The CFO has so many more responsibilities. Trying to approve a relocation thing, it's I don't know. It might end up being more hassle than it's worth. So
I have to imagine if I'm that CFO that I'm just I have a go-to email I always use, and it just says yes. Basically, I just change the name and send it, I don't even do it. My secretary does it,
right. Of course, then you'd get one that's got screwed up and it's the wrong name. It's oh, great, thanks. This isn't for me. This is the last guy you approved.
Because, if I don't want to be bothered with something, I just say yes. Right?
Oh. Yeah. Well, and so there's a website that I found. It's called Freedom in the 50 States. And freedom in
I like that.
Yeah, 50 is just the numbers, 50. So freedom in the 50states.org. And it's by the Cato Institute. So,
okay. I've heard of them.
Yeah, yes. They're a libertarian think tank. And what they did is this website ranks each of the 50 states on personal and economic freedoms.
Right.
So you can go to the map, you can click on any state you want, and it'll tell you how they've ranked it and why. So there's probably 2 or 3 dozen different categories up here that you can click on and be like, how does this state, for example, how does California rank as far as education or as far as health insurance, lawsuits, that kind of thing. And so New Hampshire is second on their list as far as personal and economic freedoms. So that's pretty good. Second, out of 50. Can you guess which one's number 1?
I thought New Hampshire would be number 1.
It's close, but yeah.
Is it Texas? It's got to be Texas, right?
No. Unfortunately, Texas is actually like 23rd.
Oh, wow. What? Really?
Yes. And it's
wow.
Oh, yeah, 21st. Yep. And a lot of it's because victimless crimes, they're very harsh on those.
Oh, yes, true.
Very harsh on victimless crimes.
Yeah, socially, they're probably not so good. That makes sense.
Yeah. So there's that.
Is it Colorado?
No, but that's one of the top 5.
Okay.
Yeah. The number 1 is Florida.
Florida. You did it. Florida.
Yes. Yep. Florida
it makes
man.
Sense. It makes sense. You can't have the free without the dumb.
And that's not to say that everyone who lives in Florida is dumb, but I mean, Florida man is a thing for a reason.
It is for a reason. But you know who was on top of election night? Who was the ideal state and ran their system perfectly? It was Florida.
It was Florida. And back in 2000, remember the hanging Chad?
Yep.
Remember that?
They learned their lesson. They learned. They were like, we're not going through that again.
That's right.
But you know who was the redheaded stepchild this time? Among others, Arizona.
Arizona, that's right.
Arizona. Everybody was waiting on us. Nevada, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And Michigan, I think, was the other one.
Yeah, and I think Georgia we were waiting on for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Georgia was really close this time.
Yes. Yeah. Arizona flipped blue. Can you believe that?
No. I was so surprised. But yeah, they did. You know what it is? It's probably all those Californians who moved there.
It's a lot of Californians. That is true. You drive around, I don't see any Biden flags hardly or signs, but I see Trump stuff everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Here, too.
But I have to say, I don't think anybody voted for Biden. Yeah, they voted against Trump. They didn't vote for Biden.
Right.
They just decided whether or not they like this guy.
Yeah, it's the lesser of two evils mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I know. Yeah, so, I mean, I'll link this. I'll send it to you, too. Freedom in the 50 states. So, yeah, the top 5, when you combine personal and economic freedoms. Florida's number 1. New Hampshire is number 2. Indiana is number 3.
Okay.
Yeah, Colorado's number 4. And then Nevada's number 5.
Indiana makes sense. That's where the We Are Libertarians podcast is based. And
is it?
It's where Chris Spangle's from.
Nice.
So, shout out to those guys. If you listen to this show, you probably listen to that show. And I would recommend We Are Libertarians to anybody. Mm-hmm. Amazing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when we're thinking about New Hampshire, it's like, there are some New England states where, it'd be easier to get a job, I suppose, like Boston, Massachusetts. But it's like, the whole point of moving to the New England area is to live in New Hampshire because of this. And so, Texas is a good state. They've got a lot of things going for them. As far as personal and economic freedoms combined, they're only 21. They're in the top half, but there are 21 on the list. So, so we have not ruled out New Hampshire, but we have to look at the job thing and be like, is it worth it? Oh, and house prices all over the country are going up. So they've been going up steadily since, I don't know, 2015 or so. I've been looking.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so now would be a good time to sell, but it wouldn't be a good time to buy.
Correct. Good advice. If everybody can work from home, then homes are going to become more valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there's that to consider. Like, could we actually afford to move yet?
But now might be a good time to buy office space if that's something you're interested in.
Oh, true.
Because I imagine those prices might be a little lower.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Though there's also a good reason for that. So,
yes.
I don't know.
So take that into consideration for sure. Yep. Well, other than that, I've been continuing to work on the videos for our episodes. I'm trying something different, so it's taking longer, but I think it'll be more interesting. So overall, I'm doing pretty well. And I am sorry to hear that things are so hard for you.
Yeah, well, it's hard for everybody, and really, it comes down to this. In a free society, you just don't do this, right? If COVID-19 is bad. Yep. But it is not, I don't know, it's not the end of humanity unless we let it. Unless we make it the end of humanity. People are using terms like new normal.
Oh, I hate that. I absolutely hate that.
Or normal never was, right? Like
what?
These idiotic ideas about we should never go back to the way things were. You know me. I am not a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
But having said that,
but
I'm pretty sure that, when we've said this before, it's politicians are not going to let a good crisis go to waste.
That's right.
And I think that at the very least, this is an opportunity that many might seize upon to essentially break capitalism. And I think, and it's working, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
Because the more people freak out, the more they look to government to be Superman, to be God. Mm-hmm. They want that thing to worship. And it's sometimes ironic because many of our friends on the left are atheists. Yeah. And yet are so religious and so devoted to the cult of the government. Mm-hmm. But it's also not a fair comparison where they look at the weaknesses of capitalism. They have to push a lot harder to find those things. And they're willing to indict the entire system over minor problems. Mm-hmm. Versus the massive problems that socialism presents. But all the could-be's are good enough. Right. They'll just point at, well, monopolies exist, so capitalism's broken.
Mm-hmm. Or you've got crony capitalism where, they get favors from the government. And it's like, oh, so capitalism doesn't work. It's like, no, crony capitalism doesn't.
And of course, the result there is, so therefore give more power to the government. I mean, they're part of the problem in that scenario. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's some real cognitive dissonance happening there. And really smart guys can come to really bad conclusions on topics where they're not as strong. And I think that libertarianism is a study of economics.
Yes. By and large, yes, it is.
It is. What if economics was a political system? Then you basically are, at least microeconomics, you're looking at libertarianism. Mm-hmm. A lot of libertarians have difficulty with macroeconomics because they don't believe in it, essentially. Because macroeconomics is essentially Keynesianism. Yeah. And we need to become experts in both, in my opinion. We need to understand how Keynesian theory works, not as a straw man, but we should steel man it, and we should fully understand it so that we can truly combat it. Yeah. I think that we also need to get comfortable as a society with this idea of getting uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. We are obsessed with our comforts. We're obsessed with entertainment and consumption. Yeah. And then I can hear someone in the back going, that's because of capitalism, right? Capitalism is about working hard to get what you want. It's about sacrifice and it's about exchange.
Well, and capitalism has made it so that overall our lives are better and easier. And so We don't have to work as hard to survive. And so with that extra time, we can fill it with entertainment.
Yeah, if we want to.
Washing machines and dryers. Women don't have to spend half the day doing laundry anymore by hand. Nope. They stick it in a machine. And so women, especially stay-at-home moms, they have a lot more time on their hands.
Yes,
and
they
so,
do.
They may go out and get a job. They may, for heaven's sakes, they may do what do you call it? Multi-level marketing. They may get wrapped up in that. Oh yeah, no, it's bad. Don't go that route. Don't do it. Women don't get into it. Oh yeah, and they target stay-at-home moms. But so these innovations, they've allowed us to have more free time. They've made our lives easier, which in itself is not a bad thing. I think that's what everyone strives for worldwide, is making your life better and easier. Mm-hmm. And in large part, America's managed to do that. And so, yes, we do have more time on our hands. We can pursue, we've got more time we can waste, or we can put to other uses. We've got time to delve into our interests more, which again it's a good thing.
Yeah, and it is. But it is the pursuit of that self-interest that enables things like washing machines to exist. Mm-hmm. We really shouldn't turn away from that which makes America great. Mm-hmm. And I think that the thing that makes America great is actually not Donald Trump.
No.
It's not a big wall.
Nope.
But it's also not socialism. What makes America great is freedom, and that's really it. Mm-hmm. It's the freedom and liberty to innovate, to create something, the promise of wealth, to achieve something miraculous through science and hard work and effort. And it's all driven by that self-interest.
Yeah, and self-interest does not always mean selfish. Those are two different things.
Where there is great freedom, there is great inequality.
That is true.
But where there is great freedom, there is also innovation. And I don't think that we think about that enough. We see a guy like Elon Musk and we say, that guy's pretty eccentric. He's a little bit weird. I don't know if I want to be exactly like him, right? He names his kid weird things. He has affairs with people, whatever. But you can't discount what people like that create and its importance to society as a whole. If you want to change energy and the way it's consumed in the United States, this is going to happen because of people like Elon Musk, because of brilliant inventors that want to make money and will stand up on stage and say, when they're introducing their weird Cybertruck, that we need to have clean energy now. It's not going to be from subsidizing Solyndra.
Right.
It's not going to be from a government mandated program. It's going to be from innovation and self-interest. Someone's going to figure that out.
Yeah. Yep. And to be able to pursue it, they need to make money from it.
They do.
Because they have to make a living too.
And it can't be from a grant because even the grant money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, and there are strings attached. Well, let's get into how the election went. So,
yeah.
There's the obvious one with the president. But there's also an article that I found, or it popped up in my newsfeed. It's from FEE, Foundation for Economic Education, and it was written on November 3rd, so it was written on Election Day. And it says, the title is 5 Important Ballot Issues to Follow on Election Night. And so there's marijuana legalization, gig work in California, rent control, also in California, Prop 16, which legalizes discrimination, and then Florida's risky minimum wage gambit. So he covers those 5. And so we'll talk about Trump, of course, but I also want to cover those and let you guys know how those turned out. And we can talk about each one.
So is the election over? I guess that's the first question, right?
Technically,
I mean, technically it's not over till December, but
that's when the electors actually cast their votes.
We do have a scenario that's quite interesting right now. We have essentially a defeated incumbent who is not accepting the results of the election.
Right.
And who is talking about refusing to leave.
And he said that even before the election happened. He mentioned that in the first
debate.
Yes, the first debate he had, the one that Trump had with Joe Biden. That was back in, I want to say, late September or...
Yeah, September, I think.
Or sometime in October. Yeah, I think it was the last week of September. So he said that. He had tweeted about that previously. And so when the moderator asked him about that, if you lose the election, are you going to leave gracefully, essentially?
And he's like, no, well, I think we could be counting this and recounting it for months.
Yeah.
And
he was claiming that it was going to be widespread election fraud. And so some people
because he knew he was going to lose.
Well, oh my gosh. Okay, so, a lot of Republicans are looking at this now and they're being like, see, he knew it was going to happen. He called it and he was right. So they're looking at him almost like a prophet.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that, yeah.
It's like, no, he's been claiming this, but he had no proof of it. One of the excuses that they're using now is that the voting machines were tampered with. And it's like, Trump had no way of knowing that before the election was going to happen. And so he's just making wild accusations. And so, as of now, this is November 15th. The election was almost 2 weeks ago. And you're right. It did take Arizona forever to call it. Nevada too. Yeah. And Alaska for some reason. I don't know what's up with that. But, But yeah, so he has he's got a few lawsuits going in Pennsylvania and Michigan. And there's...
and many of these, by the way, have been immediately dismissed.
Yeah.
A lot of local judges are just going, no.
Uh-huh.
Moving on.
Yeah. And the way I look at it is if he had done a better job, first of all, with the pandemic... If he had handled it better, if he'd handled the PR better and just done things differently, he would have looked better. And second, that first debate he had with Joe Biden, that was a mess. That was awful. And all he had to do, just play it cool, man.
All he had to do was chill out and basically hang back.
Yeah, because then, and that's the thing too, is I thought he brought up some good points in that first debate, but it was completely overshadowed by his behavior.
Yeah.
It was terrible. That was not a debate. That was a ridiculous bulldozing event. It was so bad.
And to be fair, I actually blame the debate commission. I don't like the debate commission anyway, because I'm a libertarian. And what the hell, let us talk.
Right.
But at the same time, a debate format where you get 2 minutes to speak uninterrupted, and then 15 minutes of anything goes is not a format.
No. And having the mics live while the other person was talking, I don't know.
Which, by the way, they fixed in a later debate. Did you notice that? They started saying, we're going to turn your mic on when it's your turn to speak. Which was a very kind way of saying when it's not your turn, your mic is off, but they didn't want to put it that way.
Right.
So they really got it together, and we could see a big improvement in the next debate.
But by then it was too late because most people already saw the first one. And that was a mess. So all Trump had to do was play it cool, but he can't do that. And so Go ahead.
Yeah. So number one, he is obnoxious, right? Because there's bulldozing your opponent and then there's bulldozing the audience. And I think he crossed over into bulldozing the audience.
Yeah.
Which also got Biden's blood up, which caused him to start bulldozing. And so it was just an unmitigated mess on both sides.
Yeah.
So the second big mistake was saying that he was not going to abide by the results of the election, which I think for a lot of people, including myself, was a huge deal breaker.
That's true. Yeah.
And finally, Proud Boys stand by.
Oh, that mess. Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing? do you hate winning? How many people do you think that appeals to?
Well, and so many people never even heard of the Proud Boys until then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but that's all Trump had to do. Like, so when the pandemic happened, just be straight with people, be presidential, for Pete's sake. Show yourself to be a good, strong leader. The Republicans will say he did that. The left says, no, he didn't do that at all. I'm somewhere in between. Mm-hmm. But that first debate with Joe Biden, man, all he had to do was shut up, hold yourself, stand straight with your shoulders back. Yeah, that's and just
put your hands on either side of the podium. Drive it.
Right.
Piloting, I think is what they call it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and just like all he had to do was just wait his turn and then destroy Joe Biden with words. So don't go for personal attacks, but just say things the way it is. Make your point. And he just blew it.
Don't say smart around me.
What?
Don't say smart around me.
Don't say smart. What is that something he said?
Yeah, he said, don't use the word smart around me because you're so stupid, basically.
Oh.
You don't remember that? That was in the first debate.
Oh, no, I don't remember. I was just so blown away by how awful it started. From the moment it started, it was a yelling match back and forth. And I was like, I looked at the clock. I was like, really? It's only been 10 minutes? I don't think I can sit through this whole thing. And I like debates. I like listening to debates.
Beginning to end, I saw the whole thing.
I did too. And it was a mess from the beginning. So it didn't get better. So like people on the right, a lot of Republicans are crying foul. Maybe there was interference in the election. Maybe there was some fraud. But the thing is, if Trump had handled himself better, I don't think this would have been an issue.
It was his game to lose. And I think it's hard for me at least to feel any sympathy for him when, I mean, what you're saying is I agree with, right? Like all you had to do was play it cool and let him lose.
Yeah.
And instead you did everything basically the opposite of what you needed to do.
Yeah.
Right. No, to be fair, I'm not sure anyone would have won as an incumbent during COVID-19, but I still think that he could have had a much higher chance. I will say that both candidates did get a higher turnout than in 2016, so more people did care about this. Trump actually got more voters this time, which is another reason I don't feel that much sympathy for him.
Huh.
Yeah, Trump actually netted overall more votes, but so did Biden than compared to Clinton. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the margin between them is about 5 million instead of 3 million. Now, we expect that the Democrat will win the popular vote.
Yeah. Clinton did in 2016.
And Clinton did in 2016. Yeah. Al Gore also did in 2000. The list goes on. It's pretty rare that a Republican wins the popular vote. because how populations are divided.
Yeah.
So, which is, again, a big reason why the left would like to get rid of the Electoral College so that they always win.
They would, too, because of the population, just how it's spread out.
But then politics would also shift. And what we would have are basically two Democrat parties, but one would be called the Republican Party, and it would be what you think of as a moderate Democrat at this point. And then they would be going up against Bernie Sanders, AOC types.
The socialists, yeah.
The socialist side. Which, by the way, I have to say, again, Florida, man.
Yeah.
Good job, Florida. I got exactly what I wanted out of this election, more or less. I mean, in my fantasy, George Jorgensen wins, and we all choose righteousness, and then we enter a golden age of free markets and opportunity.
Yeah.
But okay, that didn't happen. But my second desire did occur.
Which was what?
Which was Trump wins Florida but loses the election.
Oh. Why did you want him to win Florida?
I wanted him to win Florida because the reason why he did win Florida, basically because of Venezuelans and Cubans.
Oh.
he lost what is called the Latino or Latinx vote, right?
Right, yeah.
Latinx, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because it turns out Latin isn't just Mexican.
Right.
Which is also why it's dumb to put them all in one group.
Oh, I know. It encompasses all of Central and South America, which is so dumb. But yeah.
You cannot peddle socialism to Cubans.
They've already had it.
They know what that is. You can't peddle it to Venezuelans. They're not interested.
Nope.
And so it was nice to see socialism lose a little bit.
Okay.
Even though big government still is going to win at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But big government was already in power. I mean, don't be under the impression that Trump was this libertarian icon. I know that some libertarian circles praise Trump and talk about how he's the most libertarian president to date. I don't agree with that. I think in terms of spending alone, I don't see how you can agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, he did outspend Obama ultimately, which is a feat.
Was that including the pandemic stimulus stuff?
No.
Oh, okay. So like defense, education, healthcare, that type of thing? The usuals?
I mean, listen, I actually did read The Art of the Deal.
Oh, that's right.
Back in the day. And
he
doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything.
So you think a lot of it's luck, maybe?
I think it's having a rich dad that basically is an unlimited piggy bank for you to make mistakes. His first wife, I forget her name, Ivana something. Anyway, she was a big help to him, and the golden age of his business was during their marriage.
Oh.
And I think that a lot of, if there was any genius in the Trump household, it was probably hers.
Okay.
She was practically his business partner. And then he divorced her because he's an idiot. And he had a short marriage with Marla Maples and then married
Melania.
Melania, right? But you look at Trump's children, and to me, the most intelligent one seems to be Ivanka. And she, I think, gets it from her mom, to be honest. So anyway, from The Art of the Deal, I basically learned that he's not this business genius. He basically just bullies people. He files lawsuits when he doesn't get his way. He leverages the government to get what he wants all the time. You know, he is not Tony Stark. He's Justin Hammer.
Well, and he is not. Yeah, like I've seen some of my Facebook friends trash Jeff Bezos, the Amazon founder. And it's like, you know, they'll say, you know, he doesn't pay taxes. And it's like, you know who said that? That's Donald Trump. Donald Trump's the one who made that accusation that Amazon doesn't pay taxes. And it's like, which do you think is more correct? That Trump is right? Or that he's jealous that Bezos is a better businessman than he is?
Yeah, Trump dreams that one day he'll be like a 10th as cool as Jeff Bezos is. He dreams about it.
Yeah. No, like, yeah, I've seen a couple of videos of Bezos just giving talks. You know, he's very forward thinking. And to be a successful, I mean, there's many factors for being a successful businessman, but that's one of them. You have to be forward thinking. And he's thinking years in advance. And I don't think Trump does that.
A lot of people would attribute Trump to playing like 3D chess with people, 4D chess. Right?
Oh, I've seen that too. It's like, no.
You've seen that.
You're giving him way too much credit.
He's at times an idiot savant, right? Like sometimes he's right, but he's still wrong about why. But for the most part, you know, this man is a bumbling fool. And I am grateful that he will be exiting the news cycle. I'm grateful that we can start talking about something else.
Yeah. He'll probably try and stay relevant. I mean, he'll still be on Twitter. He'll still be posting stuff. I don't know what he's going to do.
He's going to write a book, no doubt. He's probably going to have a show.
He could still run again. He's only had one term. If he wanted to, he could run for again. 2024. I don't know if that'd be a good idea, but I don't know.
I think Ivanka should run.
Oh, maybe.
At least, maybe not in 2024, but I think she should run sometime in the future.
Okay.
I think she would have a good chance.
Huh. All right. I haven't kept up with her. I don't know.
I really think America would vote for a pretty girl.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I have said that many times.
I know. You're Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard.
That's right.
But if Tulsi was blonde, forget it.
She wouldn't look good as a blonde.
No, but you know what I mean.
No.
Like, no? Okay.
What do you mean? Like, people would totally vote for her, or they wouldn't because she's a blonde?
I think more people would vote for a blonde, right?
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
not a blonde Tulsi Gabbard per se, but like...
Just a blonde, yeah.
I think, yeah.
Maybe.
There's just something very sort of basic and primal about, I don't know, humans like blonde people.
They do. I don't know what it is, but it's true. They do.
Yeah. I saw a documentary about it called Face on the BBC.
Uh-huh.
And they were talking about how blondes advertise health in a way that brunettes do not.
Huh.
And so instinctually, we often find them to be more attractive.
Interesting.
Even though I personally prefer brunettes, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember if I mentioned this before or not, but Steven Crowder had an interview with Milo Yiannopoulos, and they got to talking about hair color. And Steven Crowder was like, I've said it before, blonde and brunette is a preference. Redheads are a fetish. And then Milo Yiannopoulos is like, he agreed. He's like, yes, it is a fetish. Like, he's totally like, yeah, it's true. And so they went off on hair color a little bit. So yeah, like, people tend to have a preference between blondes and brunettes. But if you like redheads, then it's a little more of a fetish. And like, guys who like redhead women, they're more likely to kind of ignore if she's a little chubby, or maybe she's got too many freckles, or maybe her nose is a little crooked. Like, the fact that she's got red hair, just it weighs lot more for them. Yeah. Which I think is awesome, because I like redheads too. And so, like, I understand.
Oh man, what if we liked people for other qualities than hair color? Wouldn't that be? This is the problem, guys. This is
no,
the
it's
issue.
Not. It's just I mean, we're visual creatures, and
we are visual creatures. You're right.
Yeah, but that's interesting that blondes tend to exude just this idea of health. Maybe it's the way the blonde hair meshes with the skin color. I don't know. Yeah,
so from what this documentary was saying was that when you have a lighter complexion and lighter hair color, that it's actually more difficult to hide imperfections.
Oh, interesting.
So when you look good, it's like your brain is basically telling you healthy mate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas a brunette is often more darker complected and can hide blemishes more easily.
Huh.
I don't know if that's true, but that's what the documentary said.
Okay. Unless you're like me with very dark hair and pretty light skin.
Yeah.
Then I don't know.
Yeah. But is that your natural complexion, or is that just from being inside?
No, it's my natural complexion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, very light skinned. Just the way it is.
Just the way it is.
Yep. And I do stay inside, but that's because I burn if I go in the sun. So, like, I don't like getting sunburnt. It's happened way too many times in my life. It hurts. And I don't want skin cancer. So, yes.
Yeah, I'm basically a ginger, and same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not bright orange, but I think I still count.
Oh, yeah. No, you're totally redhead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yep. Well, let's cover really quick these 5 different ballot issues.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because I thought they were really interesting. So the first one on the list, marijuana legalization. So 5 different states had this on their ballots. So it was Arizona, yay, Mississippi, Montana, New Jersey, and South Dakota. Mm-hmm. And it passed in all of them.
Well, I think that marijuana legalization is basically inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might even become a Supreme Court decision or a, national law of some kind,
That would be nice.
Yeah, it just seems inevitable. It's so silly that we have any form of prohibition for anything that isn't the hardest drugs. Now, I am theoretically at least for the legalization of all drugs. But, I mean, we can at least, in the short term, agree that marijuana poses no serious threat to public health or safety, nor should we be concerned with it.
No, and it actually has health benefits.
Tons of health benefits.
Yeah.
And the main reason, I really think that the main reason why it has remained illegal for so long is for the same reasons that we see in the Dallas Buyers Club, right? When we reviewed that film.
Yeah.
There are moneyed interests that are interested in keeping marijuana out of the game because it's essentially a miracle drug.
Yeah. Well, and the government makes money from it being illegal. It helps to
Correct.
fill the prisons, which are by and large for-profit prisons.
Correct.
It's not the CDC. Who is that one? The
DEA.
Yes. They are like a separate organization. They're the only ones who could disband themselves. Like, it's bad. And they absolutely benefit.
Yeah, it's essentially an apparatus of the police state.
Yep. Well, and there's something else too. So this is a CBSNews.com article. The title's called "Oregon Becomes the First State to Decriminalize Hard Drugs Like Cocaine and Heroin."
Yeah.
And this was from November 4th, 2020. So,
Which I think is the right thing to do too.
Yeah, I do too. And it makes sense now why I've been seeing all these heroin memes. It's like, what is going on? Yeah, it's because Oregon, they're legal. And one of the things, back when we covered the libertarian debate between Kim Ruff and Dan Taxation is Theft Berman, one of the questions that Ty had asked them, and this is fresh in my mind because I just did the video for it. One of the things he asked them was about legalizing drugs. And the question came up like if stores could start selling these things to minors. That was Ty's specific question, was about minors. And, philosophically, and they gave the reasons for why it would be legal for everybody. And so philosophically it's consistent, but in reality, no, you don't allow them to sell drugs to kids. Sorry. Like, I know that's not pure libertarian, but no, you do not sell those things to kids. And so I haven't looked into the Oregon bill itself, and so I don't know, or the proposition, I think. So I don't know. I'm guessing, though, it's just for adults. Like, even though heroin, marijuana, cocaine, even though it's now decriminalized, I don't think they're allowed to sell it to minors. So I'll have to look into that, but I'm almost positive that's the case, which I'm fine with. You do not sell this stuff to minors. Even in states where recreational marijuana is legal, like Washington State, you still can't sell it to anyone under 21.
Yeah, I'm full in agreement, of course. When it comes to kids, I mean, I think we just have different ways of thinking about children, right? We don't think of them as adults. We think of them as in some way belonging to parents, as essentially being perhaps not the property of parents, but certainly they are their custodians.
Wards.
Yeah, they are their wards. And when we approach that differently,
Mm-hmm.
We also, I don't want anything being sold to children, really. I'm not going to tell Nestle they can't make commercials directed to kids anymore. But I mean, ultimately, why are we selling much of anything to kids? It's their parents' money. So anyway.
Right. It's because kids pester their parents, and so the parents buy the money. Like it's the pester factor.
The pester factor.
Yeah, that's what they really go for, and it works, which is why they do it, because it actually works. So Arizona, Mississippi, Montana, New Jersey, and South Dakota, it's legal. They've legalized marijuana to different degrees. So I don't know. Do you remember how Arizona, if it was recreational or just medical?
It's recreational.
Okay.
There are still some protections on it that don't make it like a pure win.
So not like you can't grow your own plant still.
Well, like only some people get to make it and sell it to you.
Okay, yeah.
So that kind of sucks, but I think any step in the direction of full legalization a complete lack of prohibition is a big win. And I think we shouldn't discount that.
Yeah. And again, we're not saying that you should go out and take these drugs, whether it's marijuana or cocaine or heroin. We're saying that it shouldn't be criminalized. So.
Well, and this is one of the things that really inspired me about Ron Paul, the greatest man who ever lived, which was when he was asked during a debate, you want to legalize hard drugs, like, why should anyone vote for you?
Yeah.
And he basically said, well, it's a matter of freedom. How many of you, if heroin were legal right now, would go out and try it?
Yeah.
Like, I bet none of you in here would do heroin if it were legal. What you're inferring is, oh, I need the government to take care of me. I don't want to get addicted to heroin, so I need these laws. And this got raucous laughter and applause.
Yeah, it did.
And it just absolutely was inspiring. This was Chris Wallace that had asked this question too. It was totally loaded. And Ron Paul in his way, he sort of stumbles around it for a while, but eventually lands the parry and riposte perfectly. And I was like, I barely know this guy, but I want him to be president.
Yeah. And then the guy was like, oh, I never thought that heroin would get an applause in South Carolina.
That's exactly what, that was the follow-up line.
Yeah. Well, and that shows, like, in South Carolina, which is super conservative, Ron Paul's idea made sense, He was able to show them this kind of ridiculousness of the question. And yeah, you're right. It was a loaded question.
It was a very loaded question, but he was just one of those guys, Ron Paul. And I really think that the libertarian movement, and certainly the party, is missing a Ron Paul. We don't have it.
Yeah. We also don't have him.
We also don't have him. And I think that should tell us something.
Yeah.
Johnson got 5%.
Yeah.
And Jorgensen got 1.
Was it 1 or was it 3?
1.
Okay.
At least the last time I looked. I believe Jill Stein got 3 in 2016.
Okay.
From the Green Party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But regardless, she did worse.
She did.
But the answer is, I don't think, to make someone like, who do you know that joined the Libertarian Party or libertarian ideas because of Gary Johnson? Almost everyone that you talk to who professes to be a libertarian, you ask them to share their story, and almost always Ron Paul's part of it, if not the central figure.
Yeah. And part of the thing with Jo Jorgensen is, yes, you've got lockdowns, and so she couldn't campaign like you'd normally be able to. But also,
fair enough.
They purposely kept her name out of the polls.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2016, Gary Johnson was listed in the polls. And so even though his numbers weren't that high, he still had that visibility. But they did not do that with Jo Jorgensen. She did not appear in the polls.
Yeah, at least they might Google him.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not going to Google other.
No. And that's what they had. They had Trump, Biden, and then other, if they listed any third thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear that the debate commission and the pollsters are, they're in the tank for the two major parties.
Yep. Even though she managed to get her name on all 50 ballots, which is hard to do for a third party.
It is. That is one thing as the Libertarian Party that we are good at. We've been able to do that for a long time, get on all 50 ballots.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that's just the start.
Yeah.
And we really haven't been able to get much further than that. The Lions of Liberty podcast recommended that we no longer run a Libertarian Party.
Oh, really?
We no longer run as libertarians. We need to create changes within the Democratic and Republican parties. And I think on a practical sense, they're right.
Interesting.
And I tend to agree with that. Plus, I find the Libertarian Party to be fairly insufferable, to be honest.
Yeah, there are a lot of libertarians who don't like the Libertarian Party. Like, they're staunch libertarians, but they don't like the party.
We also just need to be able to be okay with wins that are short of libertarian. And I know we don't believe in utopia.
No.
But this idea of libertarian utopia, like, If a candidate doesn't hit on all 100 of my talking points, then they are unworthy of my affections, and I call them a statist out of hand.
Yeah.
It's just an immature way of looking at the universe.
Well, and a lot of libertarians don't even vote on principle. Like, even if there was a candidate who they agreed with 100%, a lot of them don't vote.
On principle, which is so stupid. I'm sorry. It is a dumb way of thinking. It is. I think if there's any conspiracy theory against the Libertarian Party, it's that someone infiltrated the Libertarian Party and told them all it was a good idea not to vote.
Well, part of it is just the philosophy. It's that, so they view voting as enforcing your will on other people. And so because of that, they're against it. They're like, I'm not going to vote because I don't want to enforce my will on other people. Mm-hmm. Which, philosophically, I understand. I do. But I think that the libertarians could have more of an impact if they were to vote. And the thing is, you're voting for liberty. What voting is doing, if you're a libertarian, you're going to be voting for freedom, for less government control. The Republicans and Democrats, they do want to enforce their view on other people. And unfortunately, because they're the major parties, it actually happens. But libertarians, our goals are different. We don't have a goal of growing the government and controlling other people. It's the opposite. And so correct. I think a vote for liberty, first of all, it's probably not going to happen. So, I mean, there's that. But you're voting for freedom. And I don't see that as enforcing your will on other people because you're freeing people from control.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's absolutely foolish to stand aside and let others determine your fate out of principle. If you have principles, you have to defend them. I believe that the way we view morals is based on human subjectivity. I think we make them up, which means that if you believe in the things that you believe, then you must fight for them.
Yeah.
You know, this is something that Friedrich Nietzsche talked about. You know, there is no good or evil. There is only the will to power. There is only the will to do things, to interact and act upon the world. And there are only two things. Those are things that act, and those are things that are acted upon. And by choosing the high ground, you turn your nose up at a universe while it points its gun at you. It is foolishness and immaturity of the highest degree. It's like the pacifist that refuses to defend itself out of principle.
Right.
You will be removed from the gene pool and your ideas will amount to nothing.
Well, and I was looking at New Hampshire because they're the second freest state according to the Cato Institute. And they went blue. So they went for Biden. But Joe Jorgensen didn't even get a good percentage in that state. And yeah, you know, libertarians, there aren't that many of us. Or maybe there are a lot of us that are just unrealized. But even if we were to get 20,000 libertarians in New Hampshire, not all of them would vote. And so
nope.
I would love it if we are looking at an election map and you've got all the states in front of you. I would love it if little New Hampshire was yellow. It'd be adorable, but it'd be awesome.
That would say something.
Yes, exactly. Which means that even if someone like Joe Jorgensen didn't even make it into the polls because they refused to show her, everyone would still have to see New Hampshire's yellow. And they'd be like, yellow?
What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. What is that? And so they would look it up. They would look at and they'd have to tell the results too. They would have to show that, you know, Joe Jorgensen got 53% of the vote. Trump got 20-something. Biden got 20-something. So even if the candidate never made it to the polls, they would still have to show the results and the numbers. So I think it would be awesome. But unfortunately, a lot of libertarians don't vote. So even if you have 20,000 of them in there, they may not make a change because there aren't enough of them. So, I mean, that's kind of what I wish. I wish libertarians would vote. And if you don't want to vote, I kind of understand why. But we're going to get swept along in the Republican and Democrat politicians' ideas. And it's going to suck.
Yeah, evil triumphs when good men do nothing, right? So
right.
Don't believe that your abstention from the voting process is anything short of supporting your oppressors.
Mm.
That is what it is, right? It's standing idly by while someone gets mugged or hurt, right?
Yeah.
You are just as guilty, in my opinion. I think it is the sin of omission.
Mm. Yeah. And our country, we still uphold the vote. And so if change is made, by and large, it's through voting. And so, I mean, yeah, politicians do make decisions without our input, but, that happens. But we also do vote, which means that the people still have a say from the local level up to the president. And so, especially local stuff, I I libertarians are voting. By the way, I did vote libertarian. I did.
Oh, okay.
Anytime that a libertarian showed up, and there's actually quite a few in my state for different positions, I did vote libertarian. And then there were a couple others where there wasn't a libertarian option, but I decided based on what I've heard about these different candidates. So some were Republican, some were Democrat, but yeah. So, I mean, it didn't do much, but I tried.
Right. You got to do your part, right? And
yeah. I mean, it's Texas. And so even though it is very strongly blue in the major cities, it still went red. It still went to Trump. And so,
though not by a lot.
No, not by a lot.
It was close.
Yep. And it'll probably get even closer as people continue to move here from California.
Correct.
They do bring their policies with them.
Or if we continue to equate red with Trump. And I think that...
Oh, yeah.
That's why I think that infiltrating the Republican Party is the play. I think we need to change the Republican Party. Mm. Because the Democrat Party, okay, I mean... We've got nothing to do with them, basically, at this point. We there's a few things, but we're too different economically. We don't value the same principles. Mm-mm. At least in theory, the Republican Party talks about small government. At least in theory, they talk about free markets.
Yeah, pro-business, pro-small business, too.
Yeah, business of all kinds. They want people making things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's something that we can work with. Right. And all the social conservative stuff, that's just going to go away with generations. Mm-hmm. Right. Like atheism is growing, not religion.
Yeah.
And pretty much nobody, at least not a significant amount of people that are high school age or younger, think that gay marriage is wrong or an abomination.
That's right. Yeah.
A lot of them aren't even going to believe in marriage by the time they get there. Okay. So We're going to let that go. Marijuana, forget it. Stupid topic at this point. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, all of these little social conservative, Jesus doesn't like this, that's all going away. The real argument we're going to have is whether or not the government takes care of us or not.
Yeah.
And we can work with a Republican base with that. But I don't think we can work with Democrats at all. At least not in that way.
No. I mean, back when we were talking about the different candidates for the Democratic Party, when my husband was on, you said, like, I can't believe that Joe Biden is the best I can hope for. Like, Joe Biden's the moderate. And, like, you considered him a moderate. Everyone else is socialist.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, and he still has problems there. But, yeah, compared to the others.
Yeah. I mean, oh my gosh. So during October, Amy Coney Barrett, she was nominated to the Supreme Court. And I was listening to some of the interviews that it's kind of like interrogations, but, it's a hearing.
They really are. They didn't used to be.
No. And I listened to the 20 minutes or so, maybe half hour, with Amy Klobuchar. She was asking Amy Coney Barrett the questions. And one of the things that Amy Klobuchar said, she said that she would love to be a queen. Amy Coney Barrett had said, I don't want to be a queen. That's not what I want to do as a member of the Supreme Court. And then Amy Klobuchar said, I would love to be a queen, a benevolent queen. And I was like, okay, so your true colors are showing. So if Amy Klobuchar had her way, she would be a dictator. She would be a queen. She wouldn't have the rule of law. She wouldn't have the checks and balances of the legislature. She would just have her will be done. And I was right. Interesting. She sure didn't say that during the debates, which is good because that'd be political suicide, basically. But yeah, she straight up said that. I
can't remember one thing she ever said during a debate. So... because I found her to be so incredibly unremarkable in any way.
You thought she was boring. Like, anytime her name came up, you're like, oh, so boring.
Amy Klobuchar, man.
Yeah. So, I mean,
who gives a damn?
That's the mentality of a lot of these Democrats, I
mean, Andrew Yang was ridiculous, but at least he was interesting.
Sure. And he had some libertarian-ish ideas.
I mean, I can show you on a graph why UBI doesn't function at all. But it's whatever. At least he was fun to listen to, and he didn't wear a tie, so bless him for that.
Yeah, and I know you didn't like Marianne Williamson, but going back and listening to part of the debates, the first ones.
Don't say that too loud. She'll sick her spirits on you.
Oh dear. Yeah, I know, right? But she pointed out, like, the Democrats, they're hypocrites. These politicians up here, and she's not a politician, she's an author. But she's like, these politicians are trashing on businesses and corporations, but they take money from them all the time. And that's not going to change. You got Bernie Sanders up there like, Amazon, you got to break them up, and Google and Facebook. And it's like, you're probably taking money from them. I mean, I don't know which companies, but that's the way our country works, is you've got politicians in bed with big businesses, and they draw up laws that favor some of those businesses. That's the way, that is crony capitalism, and that is what our country is. And so just the idea that you're going to take down big oil, you're going to take down big, businesses, it's like, you profit off of them. You guys are in bed together. Don't even do that. So
right, it's... The guy behind saying they're going to take down big oil has the big oil guy behind them, like, wringing his hands.
That's right. Yeah.
Saying, yes, excellent.
That's right. Yeah, it's like wink, wink, like, politicians like, we're just saying that, right? And the big businesses like, yeah, we know. It's fine.
Yeah, we know what's going on.
We got you. Don't worry. So, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, the Democrats, there's so many of them, at least in this election, so many of them are so far on the left. And libertarians, we can't work with that. You can't work with people who are like, I want the government to take care of me. It's so hard to work with that. At least with Republicans, it's like, yeah, small businesses are good. Entrepreneurship is great. And we should be supporting that. Being able to keep more of your paycheck is a good thing. But yeah, the Democrats don't even realize where all that money is going to come from.
They don't care.
No, they don't. It's coming from our paychecks, and it's coming from the Fed dumping money into the economy.
Because the only thing that most Democrat voters know is that Jeff Bezos is rich and they're not. And they want his money. It really is that simple.
Well, and I have to say, I do have some Democrat friends that they're fine. They're moderate. I'm not bothered by them. I have some other Democrat friends who are far left.
That are posting guillotines and... Yeah.
Yeah. And I just, those are the ones that I'm like, I can't even talk to you. I can't talk to you without... Crowd. Yes. Like, it's going to devolve into an argument. And I don't want that because these are real life friends of mine. But it's like, I just can't talk politics with you. I'm sorry.
Like, dude, we can play D&D, but let's not talk about anything else.
Yeah. Like the moderate Democrats, the moderate Republicans, I can talk to them, no problem.
No problem.
But it's the ones on the fringes, the ones on the edges. It's like it's too hard. And it's so tribalistic.
Well, the other thing is that the Republican Party just doesn't mean anything anymore. And so I think it's fertile for someone to inject meaning into it. It needs basically a charismatic leader that can gain popular support, that's populist like Trump, but has a core philosophy that is more Lockean, that believes that the role of the government is to preserve natural rights.
Yeah.
And to do little else.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of do need a charismatic leader, but hopefully one that's not also narcissistic. And that's the problem with Trump is, yes, he is, I guess he's charismatic. I don't know. Maybe that's projection on some people's parts. I don't think he's that charismatic, but they view him as a charismatic leader, but he's also narcissistic.
He's charismatic compared to Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. He's charismatic compared to Ben Carson. True. He's charismatic. Like that's the thing. Like, where were they getting these guys? You know, I mean, oh yes, I know where they were getting them from.
Senators.
They were getting them from the Senate and the House,
yeah,
and governors. But how did they even? Like what? You just came off of 8 years of Obama. That's the standard now.
Yeah.
Okay, like you run that guy.
Yeah. Maybe they have more success in the Senate or in the House of Representatives without actually becoming president.
Well, I think also more conservatives have more success in the private sector, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they would prefer to enjoy their authority and power and, frankly, money in the private sector where they can have a lot more of an effect on the world.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there are a couple other points that I wanted to bring up. So that was legalizing marijuana. And then Oregon also decriminalized the hard drugs. Gig work in California. Do you remember that? How?
Yeah, basically like Fiverr or doing like sex work, any of that stuff.
Well, it's companies like DoorDash, Lyft, Uber, all of that.
Oh, right.
So AB 5 was legislation that was signed by Gavin Newsom, and it required companies that hire independent contractors to classify them as full employees. And the left, the Democrats in California, they pushed hard for this. It passed, but it had, of course, unintended consequences.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was that if they're classified as employees, they get benefits. You know, they get health insurance, they get dental, stuff like that. But what ended up happening is a lot of companies either let them go. So they let go of these, what used to be independent contractors. And so people were out of jobs. And what also happened was the companies then went, okay, if you're going to be a full-time employee, if I have to pay you benefits, you're going to start doing things our way. You're going to start behaving the way our office workers do, essentially. So you've got to follow a dress code. You have to be on the clock for full 8 hours, no matter what else you've got going in your life. You've got to be on the clock. And so it really took away some of the freedom from the independent contractors. They used to be able to, dress how they wanted for the most part. You clock in when you have time available, and that was taken away. And so California's Proposition 22 made it so that it would exempt the gig companies. So, yeah, that law is still kind of there, but it exempts Lyft drivers, Uber drivers, DoorDash, that kind of thing. So they don't have to be classified as full-time employees. They can just be the gig workers and, that. So it was good. Oh, and that did pass. That was, Proposition 22. Yep, it passed. 58 to 41, approximately.
Jesus. Like that really needs to be the purview of the government, whether or not a Lyft driver is making money. Like, right. Just chill.
Or whether or not they have health insurance. I think that was probably one of the big things, is the health insurance thing. Like, full-time employees get it. So, yeah, it backfired.
One intelligent thing that was actually said during the Democratic debates was that people didn't love their insurance provider. They loved their doctor.
Oh.
And I thought that was true, right? Like, now the conclusion they would then come to was stupid. But the fact is we don't even love doctors. We like not being sick.
Yeah.
We like to receive health as a service. We want to get drugs that we need as a good. If we really want to improve these things, we need to we don't even need to get rid of insurance companies. We just need to allow others to compete. Mm-hmm. We need to let someone set up a shingle and say, I can solve this problem for you and not bother them.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that will make medicine more affordable and still keep up our innovation.
Yeah. Well, in the healthcare industry, healthcare itself is very expensive. It's ridiculous. Not even the insurance, just the healthcare itself is so expensive. And it kind of all works together. The healthcare, the insurance companies, and the government. You know, they've all, just the involvement of those three things has made it so that healthcare itself is ridiculously expensive. And I'm not talking about just like the average checkup. I'm talking about like if you have a surgery.
Even your checkup is actually ridiculously expensive. It's just that the insurance company eats most of it.
That's right. Yeah. And so
you do your $30 copay and you don't think about it, but it was still way more, it was unreasonably expensive when you went in for that.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm not denying that healthcare is expensive. Medications are expensive, especially here in the States. And insurance can be expensive too. So yes, these are problems. But the government is not the solution.
Government is the problem. Ronald Reagan.
Is he the one who said that?
Yeah.
He's right.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problems. Government is the problem.
Yep. Well, and this third thing.
Let's get to your last point. We got to wrap up soon.
Okay. Yeah. So an example of that is this next point, which was, again, California, Proposition 21, which allows governments to enact rent control on various types of housing.
Again, I can show you on a graph why this doesn't work.
That's right. So that did not pass, which is good. Yeah, the government getting involved in rent control makes things worse. And it's the same thing with Florida Amendment 2, which would increase the minimum wage to $15. And it did pass, so that happens. But just like with rent control, minimum wage, it sounds nice. It sounds good until you learn about economics. Because if you learn about economics, you understand why these things are actually bad, why it actually hurts the people it's intended to help.
Yeah, that's something where conservatives and libertarians could be better, is like selling why a problem doesn't work in a compassionate way.
Yes.
And saying, okay, you want to help the poor? Well, I don't want to actively hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this does. Let me show you how this is better for the poor.
Right. Yeah.
That's the argument we make. Instead, and a lot of times, Republicans especially, will say something to the effect of, well, if they just worked harder. That is not the play.
No. And it's not the reality either.
Don't imply people are lazy
No.
to win your votes.
No. And some people are lazy, but that's not a blanket reason across the board. It's not true. There are other factors that contribute to it.
Right. And that's also, not to mention the fact that a lot of times all of us are lazy at different times, so maybe we shouldn't throw stones.
Right. We all have our moments. We all got our thing we like to do instead. Yeah.
We do want to play video games. We do want to watch Netflix. We do want to eat Cinnabon, right?
We do want to spend 3 hours watching a football game. You know, we like doing these things.
Right.
So, yeah. So the only one, I mean, it was good that the marijuana legalization passed. The gig work exception also passed, which was good. That helps those who are gig workers. So the rent control thing, Proposition 21, which allows the government to enact rent control, that did not pass, which is also good.
Yeah, rent control is the easiest thing to defeat.
Yes.
In terms of just showing a lefty, like, hi, this causes supply to exceed demand, and now you have a shortage. It's very simple. Your homelessness just went up.
And most economists agree, even if they disagree.
Demand to exceed supply.
Yeah. But most economists agree that rent control is bad. Even if they disagree on a bunch of other stuff, rent control is bad for poor people. That's just the way it is. So, yeah. So that was good that failed. And then Florida's minimum wage, that one did pass, which is unfortunate. But, yeah. Yep, and there are economic reasons for that too, that are really not hard to find out if you're just willing to look for it. But most people aren't willing to look past the title.
It also goes to show you that maybe economics isn't being taught in high school when it should be.
Right.
Because that's basic high school economics is just supply and demand, showing equilibrium price, where what happens when you fall above or below that.
Yeah.
And rent control is a prime example.
Yeah.
Even economists that tend to vote left still don't believe in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I took economics in high school as only a semester, but I don't remember a whole lot from it. I mean, I remember my college economics class. I remember looking at those supply and demand graphs all over the place. I don't remember a whole lot from my high school class, though, and I'm thinking maybe it's because none of the examples stuck. I don't remember any examples that he gave.
Well, I know that sometimes in high school economics, it's almost more like a personal finance class.
I do remember that. I remember a personal finance project I had to do, and that was fun.
Even I do a week of it.
Okay.
But for the most part, I make them do like graphs and stuff and explain what the law of supply and the law of demand are, how they interact, and what government intervention on that looks like. We look at the circular flow model. We also go into Keynesianism and macroeconomic theory.
Right.
Monetary and fiscal policy.
Do you go into Austrian economics?
Well, of course. I mean, Austrian is basically microeconomics. Like it's very simple.
Good.
On the, all the Austrian theory is really trying to say is that there is only microeconomics, right? Like even on a grand scale, all these laws still apply, and macroeconomics says no, they're different.
Okay.
That's a rabbit hole.
Yeah. So, do you have any other thoughts on the election? Yeah. Because right now you got a bunch of lawsuits. Biden did get the popular vote by quite a lot. He's expected to have a lot more electoral votes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I congratulate Kamala Harris on being the first female president.
That's right.
Because she is going to push him down the stairs.
Yep.
The moment he gets inaugurated.
No, she'll wait like a year or two just so it doesn't look suspicious. But yeah, I mean, she will become the first female president. I almost guarantee it.
She's going to drop a toaster in his bathtub. Like it's not going to take long. But yeah, maybe she'll wait a year if she can.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but Biden's not going to live.
Right. No, I know. And so many people think the same thing.
Yeah. And what's funny is that we don't even care. We just don't care. We're like, yeah, she's going to actually commit murder, and we're all just going to like shrug and move on.
Well, I think it's because we're all jaded.
Yeah, we are. And we're all depressed, by the way.
That too. Yeah. And so it's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's bad, but it is what it is at this point. So.
Yeah. But you know what? A small positive to that is like, yeah, Kamala, you may end up being president, but you didn't earn it. You dropped out so early. Like, you didn't even make it to Super Tuesday. So, she was handed it. She didn't earn it.
That's why we're going to have Kamala v. Gabbard round 2 in 2024.
Yes!
Gabbard's going to run as Republican.
Ooh! That would be awesome!
Her walkout music is going to be Cruella de Vil. It's going to be fantastic.
Oh, lovely. I would tune into every one of those.
Oh my gosh, yes. Just, she's back. Aloha. Uh-huh. Yep. This is my headcanon.
Yep. So any other last thoughts on the election before we head off to our media moment?
No. Biden won. I don't care. Is there voter fraud? Probably on such a small scale as to be insignificant. Honestly, I don't even care. So Biden wins. Great. Fine. I'm glad, actually. Because if you won't leave, then that's a big disqualifier for me.
Yeah.
If you will not accept defeat graciously, you are disgusting and dishonorable.
Yeah. Even Clinton did that in 2016.
Yes, and she is. So if morally you fall below Hillary Clinton, congratulations to Joe Biden. That's all I would say.
Yeah.
So, media moment. The second season of The Mandalorian is coming out one episode at a time.
Right.
It's already pretty great. It's a little odd at certain points, but it's still way better than the films were. The Mandalorian is a true Star Wars experience.
Nice.
And it is also a samurai movie and a Western. So it is amazing. Highly recommend The Mandalorian.
Uh-huh.
Other than that, I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 in early access, which has been fun for the most part. It's been pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to the full game. Half-orcs are objectively the best race in D&D, and they need to be released ASAP. Prove me wrong. We're still waiting for Cyberpunk.
Yeah, that got delayed.
Yeah, when that finally comes out, life will have meaning again. So, that's me. How about you?
I started listening to your other podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, you're going to do my shout out for me.
I'll let you talk about it later. But yes, I've listened to all the episodes so far. So.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are fun together.
Does that make you want to get back into the hobby?
Nope. That's not because of you guys. It's just listening to it. I remember why I don't want to play anymore. And you guys have actually touched on some of those topics in your episodes. So. Oh,
okay. Well, the show is about Dungeons and Dragons and role playing games. So what is it about role-playing games where you're like, yeah, I don't miss it anymore?
Well, it's D&D specifically, and there's a few things. So, too much downtime and wasted time. Remember the one where we were at our friend's house and it was the monster killer thing? I don't remember, but it was like 8-hour sessions.
Oh, right. Yeah. The Monster Hunter campaign.
Yeah. So 8 hours, but it wasn't even 8 hours of playing. It was probably 2 hours of playing and 6 hours of just talking and making jokes and laughing, and it's okay, but just not that, like, it's very imbalanced.
It's a long time to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say the dynamic for my current group is very different from that group.
Okay.
It's far more RP focused, far more character driven. Plus we only meet for about 4 hours.
Okay.
At most. And so it's like, okay, we're getting in, let's get going. Go, which is pretty good. But there is still a lot of waiting. Combat still drags.
Oh yeah.
It is one of those things that we work on, but
Yep. But there's the metagaming where it's you are making decisions based on your own knowledge when your character wouldn't know that.
Right.
And that's just one of those pet peeves of mine that it's probably because I do like the role-playing aspect of it. And that takes you out. I think Andrew's the one who brought it up. Immersion. Where when you're metagaming, you're taking yourself out of the role-play and you're making decisions based on your knowledge. And I don't like that. For me, I think the decision should be based on what the characters would know or wouldn't know.
Well, I think you're tired of bad D&D. I think you need... I think you need experience with good D&D, and that we never really had good D&D during those days. Okay. We really didn't. We just didn't do it. It was more of the beer and pizza vibe.
Oh yeah,
and some groups are way more for that. But when you're in a good group with people that have like-minded goals. It's a night and day kind of difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think ironically, when you have more time, you just waste it, right? So and you don't feel that same pressure to get things done.
Yeah. And there was also, I think it was with that group with the 8-hour sessions, another thing that you guys mentioned in your podcast, I think it was episode 7, that the idea of creating a character that you really care about and it's all about role playing and stuff versus creating a character that it's just numbers on a sheet and you're just there to kill stuff. And the frustration I had was we played a couple different campaigns, and for one of them, I had made a character with a good backstory. I put a lot of thought into it, and then it was just basically rolling dice and killing stuff. Like there was no actual story in the game. And so the next game we played, I was like, I don't care. I don't want to go through that again. So I'm just going to throw a character together. I don't care. And then that ended up being a game that was more role-playing focused. And I was like, damn it. I just so can't get it right.
Reversed. Yeah, I can feel that frustration. I feel like it's okay to spend so much time, by the way, talking about this because people want an activity where they can still be social, but, not necessarily right around each other.
Yeah.
D&D is a nice outlet for that.
Yep. That is true.
So anyway, if you are interested in learning more about how to run a good game with good rules and good people, then check out Inspiration Point. That's with me and Andrew, and we go over basically rules about running and playing in good games.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good tips that they've thought of. And yeah, it's fun to listen to.
And the secret ingredient is love.
That's right.
And it really is, though. Like, we joke, but it is. It is true.
Yeah, it's fun. My husband and I finished The Good Place.
Oh, yeah. How'd you like it?
I loved it.
Oh, my God. I love the ending. Like, it's so hard for a good show to end, but they nail it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and I'm talking to this guy who's in India, and he asked me, have you seen The Good Place? And I said, yeah, we finished it. And he's like, over in India, it was such a letdown, the ending, because that's basically Hinduism. It's like you're reincarnated. You go up to either heaven or hell, and then you stay there for a while, and then you come back down to earth. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can see that. For Americans, it's different because, for us, for Christianity,
it's all about final judgment.
Yes, final judgment, and heaven and hell are eternal. And so that's why for us, the ending was more impactful because it was different. And it was...
Well, it's also not straight reincarnation like the way they say. I mean, you cease to exist. You accept the destruction of self. You accept death.
Yeah. Finally.
And that is actually beautiful.
Yeah. And you come back down as essentially somebody's conscience. Your last act, I guess, is to prompt someone to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was good. And I loved how funny it was. Oh my gosh. Yeah. The Good Place.
Quite funny.
Yeah. Like laugh out loud type of funny. It's just, they did such a good job.
The characters are great too. And their interactions between each other are great.
Yeah.
I can't think of too many characters that I found like obnoxious or wanted less of.
Jason?
Jason would grate on my nerves at times, but ultimately he was lovable.
He was lovable. That is true. Yeah.
So it was fine. Tahani is like maybe my favorite character.
I was going to ask, who's your favorite?
Yeah, I think it was Tahani, although Eleanor is fantastic. Uh-huh. And Michael, of course, was a great character. And I had just gotten done watching Cheers when I started The Good Place. Oh. So, it was Ted Danson was like, oh, hey, it's the same guy. Uh-huh. Yeah. But no, I love Tahani because I could tell right away what her problem was, like why she was in hell, basically. Uh-huh. Like, Eleanor is on the face of it like a terrible person, but Tahani is... seems great. She is virtue signaling the person. Uh-huh. And I don't think the left understood that Tahani was lambasting her. Or was lambasting all of them. Because Tahani was the wealthy person that pretends to be compassionate for her own glory.
Yeah. Yeah, it's to outshine her sister and for her parents' approval.
Yes. And so I think that's maybe even unintentionally said something towards our friends on the left who like to pretend to be virtuous when they are just as terrible as their Republican counterparts.
I liked Janet. My favorite characters were Janet and Chidi.
I am not a woman.
Right, not a woman. Yeah, this is my girlfriend, not a girl.
Not a girl.
Yeah, I like her. And Chidi I liked him too. Yeah. Yeah, it was a great show. Yeah, I recommend it. Highly.
Yeah, I highly recommend.
Yeah. Other than that, I've been watching more DVDs on Netflix. And I've been going on this LGBT films streak. So,
really?
Yeah, I started being interested in it back in June or July, the Gay Pride Month. Because Amazon did this thing. It was Pride Inside, where it's just a computer program, but it looks like this open space, like a courtyard or something, and you can go into different buildings and see makeup tutorials or a film about Sylvester, this guy who was a trans singer back in the disco era in San Francisco. And so that got me interested in gay films. Like, what are some films that people consider, some of the best LGBT films? And so I've been in the middle of that. So, interesting stuff.
You like them? They're fun?
Not all of them. I'm probably 5 or 6 into them so far. So some of them were good. Others were not good. There was one it was really lighthearted, but it was about gay conversion therapy. And so next on my list is actually 2 films about gay conversion therapy. Like, I don't think they're lighthearted. I think it's more like this is the real thing type of thing.
Right. It's like, it's not a documentary, but it's a documentary.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm not anticipating having a good time, but it's educational. I think anyone who's in favor of gay conversion therapy needs to research it first, because they're looking at it from a strictly gospel point of view. Like, this is wrong to God. When no, you need to look for yourself, find out what it actually entails, and then ask yourself, are you willing to put your child through this?
Correct.
Or are you willing to put yourself through this? Because, they use a variety of tactics, and it's not good.
Yeah, it's not. And it's a pretty evil, wicked thing that happens to people, if I can say those words.
Yeah.
It's horrendous.
Yep. So I'm educating myself on that. Just self-education. And it's been good. It's been eye-opening so far.
Or there's the Mandalorian. Just kidding.
Or The Boys.
The Boys. I did enjoy the end of The Boys.
Okay.
But anyway, I won't go into it, but it was good.
Okay, nice.
Okay, so I think that basically wraps it up.
Yeah.
Let's take her away, huh?
Yeah. So you can find us on the major podcast apps at Libertatheists. And if you'd like to contact us, you can message us on Facebook, or you can comment on the videos that we have on BitChute. And we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.